Please, delegates, take your seats. We are about to begin. The 5th plenary meeting of the General Assembly is called to order. The General Assembly will continue the Summit of the Future under Agenda Item 123 entitled Strengthening of the United Nations System. Before we begin with the list of speakers, delegations are reminded that statements should be limited to 5 minutes for participating states and 3 minutes for other statements. Pursuant to Rule 72 of the Rules of Procedure, when a representative exceeds her or his allotted time, the President shall call the Speaker to order without delay, which will be done by means of automatic microphone cutoff. In accordance with Resolution 72/313, the All Protocol Observed principle is recommended, whereby participants are encouraged to refrain from the listing of standard protocol expressions during their statements. Within this time frame, I would like to appeal to speakers to deliver their statements at a reasonable pace so that interpretation into the other official United Nations languages may be provided properly. The list of speakers for each meeting shall be completed, and no speakers will be rolled over to the next meeting. Speakers who are not present when their speaking turn comes will be automatically moved to the next available speaking slot within their category at the same time. I invite His Excellency João Manuel Gonçalves Lourenço, President of the Republic of Angola, to address the Assembly.
His Excellency Philemon Young, President of the 79th Session of the United Nations General Assembly, Excellencies, I am honored to take the floor at this important summit, which I consider crucial for us to discuss together the best strategies to strengthen and renew the multilateral system so that we are better prepared to face new global challenges and emerging threats. I would like to congratulate His Excellency Antonio Guterres for launching the initiative to convene the Summit of the Future. I take this opportunity to highlight with appreciation the exemplary work carried out by the Republic of Namibia and the Federal Republic of Germany, who co-facilitated the negotiation process for the adoption of the Pact for the Future. We hope that by convening this summit, we will be in a position to jointly find effectively multilateral solutions for a better tomorrow. The adoption of the Pact for the Future represents undoubtedly a real turning point for a more dynamic, committed, engaged and assertive approach to the issues that are important to humanity. It is our belief that the political commitment we make will contribute significantly to the world managing to gather the necessary resources to finance sustainable development and efforts to build a new peace architecture, always with the defense of human rights, gender equality, and the imperative to leave no one behind at the center of our approach. Excellency, in the implementation of this global roadmap, we cannot leave out the youth and women, who are vital drivers for the transformation and modernization of humanity. As we can all see, the Pact for the Future offers an opportunity for more active, meaningful and active participation by young people and women in decision making at all levels. In our commitment to building a sustainable future for all, we must also make an important commitment to stepping up the fight to eradicate poverty in all its forms and dimensions, including extreme poverty, which is the greatest global challenge of our time and an indispensable requirement for achieving sustainable development. Food security, access to energy, digital connectivity, education, employment, and social protection. We cannot achieve our common ambitions for the future and face this great challenge without putting the poorest and most vulnerable people at the center of our actions and ensuring that no human being or country is left behind. Excellencies, in the area of peace and security, we need to evolve towards an architecture of peace in which the principle of shared security is defended and protected by all, so that no citizen, state, region, or geographical area feels protected at the expenses of the insecurity of others. The Republic of Angola believes that it is not possible to build a balanced, safe and sustainable world in which dignity and access to opportunities are the exclusive benefit of a small group of privileged people to the detriment of the majority of the world's population. We also defend the need to reach consensus on reforming the world financial architecture and the architecture of the world's sovereign debt, which is crucial if we are to have a fairer international financial system that is also capable of serving the interests of developing countries. Angola has made a crucial and responsible commitment in recent times to the issue of transitioning to the economy towards the digitalization of all processes that involve it. We are convinced that by taking this step, we will bring our populations and institutions closer and more closely linked to the most modern mechanisms for global interconnection of the economy and trade, thus reducing the geographical barriers that the traditional economy imposes. To conclude,
I thank the President of the Republic of Angola. I invite His Excellency Petr Pavel, President of the Czech Republic, to address the Assembly.
Mr. President, Secretary General, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I am grateful to address this distinguished audience and express my gratitude to the Secretary General and his team, who started one of the most important processes of our time, focused on revitalizing multilateralism. The 2030 Agenda is our common goal and roadmap for sustainable development. Now we have a unique opportunity to accelerate its implementation. The Pact for the Future creates a solid base for a better and more effective multilateral system, and we stand ready to work together with other delegations on ensuring summit's successful follow-up. In order to find the right way forward, we need to know and understand the challenges that threaten our future. Let me clearly state that the Russian aggression, an aggression by a country that is a permanent member of the Security Council, against sovereign Ukraine represents a singular challenge shaking the very core of the international system and the fundamental principles of the United Nations. But addressing one challenge does not diminish the urgency of others. We are aware of the suffering caused by wars and conflicts, of the life-threatening disasters aggravated by climate change, pollution, and biodiversity loss, the slow progress in achieving sustainable development, or pervasive violations and abuses of human rights. These challenges are connected. No country is immune to them, and no country can address them on their own. Let me now highlight specifically 2 points. First, I welcome the Global Digital Compact. It outlines a common vision and intent to promote realistic international cooperation in the context of digital technologies worldwide, and presents a joint understanding of some core principles. Czechia will play an active role. Digital transformation cannot serve to the benefit of every individual without human-centric and human rights-based approach to the challenges that are ahead. The potential of today's emerging technologies like artificial intelligence or biotech is enormous. They will surely contribute to finding solutions to many of today's challenges. At the same time, greater technological dependence creates greater vulnerabilities. Therefore, I recently co-sponsored the launch of the Prague Geotech Summit, to be held every year at the GlobeSec Forum. Its aim is to foster dialogue between business, academia, and government, to contribute to our shared understanding of how to handle technology safely on a daily basis and protect ourselves against its misuse by malign actors, being it individuals, groups, or states. My second point concerns climate change. The current climate crisis and its far-reaching implications must be addressed in a comprehensive and integrated way through enhanced and effective multilateralism. The recent floods in Central Europe, probably worst in decades, are a clear reminder of the growing threat of climate-induced weather events. Czechia will continue to advocate for a stronger global response. Addressing climate change is more than one of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. It is a threat multiplier with the potential to worsen some of humanity's greatest challenges, such as poverty, hunger, or health. We are ready to work with all international partners to ensure successful outcome of the next UN Climate Conference to be held in November in Baku. Through our bilateral and multilateral development assistance, we implement a wide range of climate-related projects to help partner countries to mitigate and adapt to the impacts of climate change. Ladies and gentlemen, the outcomes of the Summit of the Future will only become effective if we fully implement them. And our work begins at home. The Czech historical experience with transition from authoritarian to a democratic state, from a centrally planned to a market economy, taught us many lessons. Ever since then, we have been striving to build upon the benefits of participatory decision-making, particularly youth engagement, rule of law, and accountable institutions as catalysts for a sustainable future for all. That work never finishes. To end with, I wish to confirm that Czechia joins others in demanding a tangible reform of the UN system. Czechia will also continue to pay its regular budget contribution to the UN in full and on time, and urge others to meet their financial obligations as well to ensure that the UN can carry.
I thank the President of the Czech Republic. I invite His Excellency Brice Clotaire Oligui Nguema, Transitional President of Gabon, Chairman of the Committee for the Transition, to address the Assembly.
Excellence.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, heads of state and government, Mr. President of the 79th session of the United Nations General Assembly, Mr. Secretary General of the United Nations, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on the occasion of this historic date, I wish to take this opportunity to voice my encouragement to the President of the 79th session of the General Assembly, His Excellency Philemon Yang, as well as all member states, on the convening of this important summit on the sidelines of the General Assembly. Like previous speakers, I wish to thank the co-chairs of the negotiations for their efforts. Since my assumption of office, the Committee for the Restoration of Institutions has demonstrated not just the desire to restore the fundamental rights of citizens, but also to implement meaningful reforms to improve people's living standards while upholding our international commitments. This process, an inclusive process, is a promise of hope through transparent and accountable governance, thereby enhancing trust between peoples and leaders. This spirit of national restoration is reflective of our commitment to multilateralism, which we view as a critical lever towards peace throughout the world. In terms of international peace and security, it appears evident to all that the United Nations Security Council needs to be reformed to reflect present-day realities and demands, and as well as challenges. Africa is an area where there are unfortunate conflicts taking place, needs to be proactively involved in these reforms. And to achieve this, there is a need for the reform of the international financial architecture with meaningful investments in the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals. As we seek to leave no country behind, there's important need for all to have equitable access to financial resources. This requires the easing of debt and concessional financing opportunities, including concessions for the preservation of forests and the Debt for Nature initiative. International solidarity also requires scientific and technological innovations and cooperation to advance technological progress and to facilitate technology transfers. Mr. President, more than half of our population is under the age of 2020. This is a challenge for our government in terms of planning for the future. For this reason, I warmly welcome our commitment towards the Pact for the Future to meaningfully enhance the participation of young people at the international level. Such a commitment requires meaningful investments in the development of international accessible educational systems, accessible to all, generating both entrepreneurship and jobs. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to emphasize that the Pact for the Future is a part of a solidarity, pragmatism, and cooperation. My country, Gabon, is fully committed to contributing to this endeavor. Thank you.
I thank the Transitional President of Gabon, Chairman of the Committee for the Transition. I invite His Excellency Andrzej Duda, President of the Republic of Poland, to address the Assembly.
Mr. Secretary General, Your Excellencies, at the outset, let me thank the Secretary General for his initiative to convene this summit and all the countries facilitating the negotiations of its documents. We believe the summit provides a unique opportunity to reflect on the effectiveness of current structures in addressing key global challenges. We all can see significant shifts in international relations. The order based on international law and solidarity enshrined in the UN Charter is under serious threat. The global multilateral system has become in many ways dysfunctional and needs to be reformed. We cannot accept that those who challenge the order based on the UN Charter are gaining strength. Russia's aggression against Ukraine is a striking example. As a permanent member of the Security Council, Russia should uphold the UN Charter and the international law. However, by attacking a sovereign state, it has relinquished its responsibility. Consequently, Russia can no longer claim to be safeguarding the security of the international system and that of other nations. We must strive to improve the efficiency of the UN system. In order to restore faith in multilateralism and maintain peace and security, it is necessary to strengthen international law. Despite many reservations about the UN system, there is no better alternative to multilateralism. Today's global challenges are complex and require collective action, as individual states cannot address them alone. Commitment to multilateralism with the UN at its core is a cornerstone of Polish foreign policy. We are determined to defend the UN Charter and its principles. We advocate for fair global governance and the reinforcement of international cooperation across the key pillars of the UN: peace and security, development, and human rights. Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased that the Pact for the Future addresses the strengthening and promotion of the three pillars of the UN activity: peace and security, development and human rights, as well as respect for the UN Charter and international law. It identifies the actions needed to achieve the ambitious goals related to strengthening the multilateral system and achieving the goals of the 2030 Agenda. It is necessary to ensure adequate participation of women in global governance and take into account the perspectives of the younger generation. At the same time, the issues related to aging populations and the expectations of younger generations remain equally challenging. We are aware that the outcome of the summit must reconcile various perspectives and ambitions. We are ready to work together to achieve ambitious results and fully implement the Pact for the future in the coming years. Thank you.
I thank the President of the Republic of Poland. I invite His Excellency Daniel Noboa Azin, Constitutional President of the Republic of Ecuador, to address the Assembly.
Excellencias.
Excellencies, delegates, ladies and gentlemen, global decisions and commitments must always be determined with the involvement and the contribution of those who today can build the world of tomorrow, our young people. As a young president, I feel responsible for representing and sharing our hopes and wishes that the Pact for the Future will fulfill the promise of ensuring that we have a resilient, sustainable, and inclusive future. We must tackle the alarming and growing rates of youth unemployment through public and private investment, because allocating sufficiently targeted financing will make it possible for us to provide better access for education at all levels and in all forms, as well as better conditions for job opportunities. Only in this way can we pull our youth away from the grasp of crime, drugs, and transnational organized criminal activities. In Ecuador, we are creating tangible and genuine opportunities for our youth so that they have alternatives to dignity and to improve their living conditions, the living conditions of their families and of all of Ecuadorian society through comprehensive public policy, scholarships, and financial incentives. We've taken decisions that have given us hope because that is the way to build an environment of safety and peace. In so doing, we are ensuring that every young person will contribute to the economic, social, and environmental development, a better future for our society. If we do not give our youth a country at peace, what future can we speak of? And therefore, I reaffirm at this global forum Ecuador's commitment to peace. We must promote multilateral and UN mechanisms to address the multidimensional crises, new global threats, destabilizing regions, eroding democracy and the rule of law, and reducing the opportunities for the well-being of our young citizens. There is an inseparable link between peace and development. Violence and insecurity are often associated with instability, the lack of opportunities and resources. We must recognize this interrelationship in order to develop effective strategies which will comprehensively address economic inequalities and security problems. Our voluntary national review introduced 2 months ago at this UN revealed that 6 targets of SDG 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions, have synergies and interlink with 125 targets in the other SDGs. I'm very grateful for the support that we've received and for the tireless work done to assist us in our efforts. This correlation reaffirms that, in fact, making progress in areas of peace and justice is crucial for the comprehensive success of the Agenda 2030, demonstrating these close ties between peace and stability and sustainable development. Ecuador is committed to accelerating implementation of Agenda 2030, and we have aligned our national development plan with the SDGs. We have achieved significant achievement in reducing poverty, combating child malnutrition, and contributing to care of the environment. Today, Ecuador reaffirms its commitment to continue to work closely with all countries of the world in order to make the Pact for the Future, adopted yesterday, a reality. I would also make a particular comment. I understand what is happening in our countries. What's happening in Latin American countries is happening in Africa. 40% of our people in our country are between the ages of 14 and 35. If we do not meet their basic needs, if we do not address the basic needs and concerns of our young people, we will not achieve Agenda 2030. If we do not think about educating our young people, ensuring jobs for them, it will be impossible for us to achieve this agenda. We have to have a clear vision. Our young people are not just the future, they are our tool for arriving at that future, ensuring balance and justice. The microphone has been cut off.
I thank the Constitutional President of the Republic of Ecuador. I invite His Excellency Peter Pellegrini, President of the Slovak Republic, to address the Assembly.
Mr. President, Mr. Secretary General, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Slovakia, as one of the co-founders of the UN system, is and remains a long-term and consistent advocate of multilateralism and international cooperation. We welcome the agreed Pact for the Future and its annexes, the Global Digital Compact, and the Declaration on Future Generation. It's a long-needed success of multilateralism. My gratitude to the co-facilitators for their work, and also to the Secretary General for his vision that guided and shaped this summit. By the next year, 80 years will have passed since the Bretton Woods Conference, which changed the way of global governance. We know that what used to take centuries or millennia now takes decades or even years. In plain speech, many changes come more often and much faster than in the past. But we also live in a world with the highest amount of conflicts and humanitarian crises. We see unprecedented refugee numbers and growing climate change impacts too. What was considered best in class for most industries 10 years ago is now slower than the average. If this applies to business, why wouldn't it apply to international cooperation? We can afford no more senseless exchange as we did on climate exchange. We need to reflect on facts instead of denying them. One of the most positive features of our time is huge data collection. Together with the rising AI technology, it gives us the power to see and do things based on facts and science. The flip side is the spread of disinformation and lies. Our policies have to reflect that our lives are increasingly transferred to the digital space. Our online identities become equally important as our physical identities. We need to create conditions of what I call digital humanism, defining the rights and obligations of the virtual world, and equally important, tools for their enforcement. We need to ensure that the rules of the online world mirror the rules of the physical world. Online threats and dangers aren't less real than their offline versions. Words and deeds in the virtual world can be even more destructive because they reach a much broader audience. Expressing opinions in digital space shouldn't be restricted, but it should be guided by similar principles that we already apply outside the internet: full responsibility and clear identity. Let's not confuse such rules with harm to the freedom of speech. Every freedom requires accountability. We don't know what the future holds for us, but what we do now is that the pace of change will not get any slower. We also know education, inclusion, investing in our youth, and reducing the digital divide play a vital role in bracing for our digital future. We don't get to choose in which part of the world we are born. Everyone deserves an equal starting line with the digital technologies. Today, they provide access to information, higher economic growth, and fairer social conditions, the way to a better life. Access to digital tools shouldn't be determined only by money, but by individual skills and talents. Living in a digital world also means lifelong learning. I am in my 50s and love technology, but I have to be ready to constantly learn new skills to keep up. Change and adaptability will remain the only constants. Wise infrastructure choice, rich data collection and analysis, not intuition, bias or prejudice, should primarily shape our policies. We are on a steady road to an increasingly unstable world full of repeated crises. The global challenges are urgent and complex, and so must be our decision-making. Of course, a stronger, more effective and reformed multilateral system would be desired, but we can also manage with institutions and mechanisms that we already have in place. We need to invest more in respectful, practical and result-oriented cooperation, just like we did with this pact. It's also a way to reduce the mistrust among UN members and institutions. I consider the Pact for the future a stepping stone of adoption, not the end of the journey. There are many tasks ahead of us. Thank you very much.
I thank the President of the Slovak Republic. I invite His Excellency Alexander Stubb, President of the Republic of Finland, to address the Assembly.
Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, you know, there are a lot of cynics outside of this room who are probably thinking, what's this pact on the future? I actually disagree with them. I think this is an extremely good pact. Why? Because in many ways it shows the difference between multilateralism and compromise and cooperation versus multipolarity and disorder. And in many ways, I think we are witnessing the 1920, 1945, or 1989 moment of history. And do you remember in 1920, the League of Nations was a good idea, but it wasn't able to sustain peace at the end of the day. In 1945, 79 years ago, when the UN was founded, it was a success. Why? Because we pooled sovereignty and tried to find common solutions to common problems. And I think that yesterday's pact shows that the UN works. I have two questions today. The first one is, what's the paradox of our times? And the second one is, why we need to reform the UN right now. Now, the paradox of our time is that precisely at the moment when we need multilateral cooperation, we are reverting to multipolar, transactional disorder. And look where it's taking us. We're not achieving our sustainable development goals. We're not achieving our targets in the climate crisis. And we're witnessing 4 major wars simultaneously in Ukraine, Palestine, Sudan, and of course, Syria. Now, I'm really worried. The problem is that we have a whole bunch of global goods, such as climate change, technology, sustainable development, immigration, and conflicts, which we cannot solve without the United Nations. And I actually think that the Pact on the Future gives us a lot of answers. My second question is, why do we need reform now? Now, a lot of those people who bash the United Nations, they often bash us here in New York because we're not achieving political results. And to a certain extent, they're right. But they forget that there's a part of the UN that works, and that's the agencies in Geneva. Now, of course, the main task of the UN Security Council is to preserve peace. And let's be honest, it has failed to do so. And you know what? The UN Security Council, in my mind, does not reflect the world of today. Why? Because there's no representation from Latin America, there's no representation from Africa, and there's only one country from Asia. And the thing is that if you want an institution to work, if you want to work within that institution, you need to feel that you have agency, that you work with it. So on Wednesday, I guess repetition is the mother of all wisdom, I will make 3 proposals for the reform of the UN Security Council. The first one is to expand it by 5 members, 1 from Latin America, 2 from Africa, and 2 from Asia. My second proposal is that the veto power of all permanent and non-permanent members of the Security Council should be scrapped. And the third one is that if a member of the Security Council blatantly violates the UN Charter, its voting rights in the Council should be suspended. Is this a realistic proposal? I hope the chairman gives me extra time because of the applause. I much appreciate that. So I will then conclude. I come from a very small country, Finland. We lost 10% of our territory to the Soviet Union in World War II, but our success as a country, coming from one of the poorest countries in Europe, now managing quite well, is linked to the United Nations. So I understand the meaning of the United Nations and multilateral cooperation. This pact on the future gives us many good answers. Let's start implementing it. Thank you very much.
I thank the President of the Republic of Finland. I invite His Excellency Edgars Rinkēvičs, President of the Republic of Latvia, to address the Assembly.
Your Excellency, President of the General Assembly, Excellencies, the world is changing, bringing along new opportunities and challenges for our societies. We need to be ready to adapt to the new realities. That is why we are all here, for our joint commitment to effective global cooperation, for our roadmap to collective action, the Pact for the Future. I would like to use this opportunity and thank Germany and Namibia for their leadership in steering the negotiations towards this ambitious outcome. Effective multilateralism is essential in an increasingly interconnected world. Global challenges, from climate change and pandemics to conflict and inequality, go far beyond national borders. The United Nations has a key role in tackling these challenges. Increase of threats to international peace and security are of particular concern. Building on the Secretary-General's new agenda for peace, we need a new approach to the evolving security landscape. Achieving sustainable development for all and leaving no one behind are commitments we made back in 2015. The overall progress towards Agenda 2030 is too slow. We must be more decisive and bolder in our commitment to these goals. Allow me to highlight a few points. Digital and emerging technologies can help to reach our goal of sustainable future. The Global Digital Compact is our path to inclusive digital transformation, where human rights are the center. Our commitment to combat climate change and sea level rise must be carried out. For some countries, it is a matter of peace and security. For others, a question of their existence. Gender equality and empowerment of women is a requirement for sustainable development. Latvia is a strong advocate for the Women, Peace and Security agenda, especially focusing on the elimination of war-related sexual violence. Full and meaningful participation of the youth in decision-making is very important. We must listen to the youth and deliver on our commitment to protect the generations to come. The United Nations is the core of multilateral system uniting all sovereign states. It has an essential role to maintain international peace and security. But the frameworks we have built need urgent revision. International institutions must become more representative. They must reflect today's political and economic realities. Latvia strongly supports the strive to improve the working methods of the Security Council. The permanent members of the Security Council must uphold their responsibility to protect peace and security, especially Russia, which continues to wage its brutal war of aggression against Ukraine. Ladies and gentlemen, if we deliver on these commitments and the Pact for the Future, it will echo through generations. Latvia is prepared to work towards safe, equal, and sustainable future. Our commitment to the international rules-based order is driving also our bid for a non-permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council at the 2025 elections. Thank you.
I thank the President of the Republic of Latvia. I invite His Excellency Emomali Rahmon, President of the Republic of Tajikistan, to address the Assembly.
Excellency Chairperson, Excellency Secretary General, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to first of all extend my sincere gratitude to the United Nations Secretary General for the commendable initiative in organizing this Summit of the Future, as well as for the gracious invitation to partake in this important summit. We held in high regard the diligent efforts of the coordinators of the Pact for the Future, esteemed representatives of Germany and Namibia. This meeting serves as a valuable platform for the review of the critical issues such as climate change, the safeguarding of public health, poverty alleviation, enhancement of women's living conditions, inclusive education, and other pressing global challenges. Furthermore, matters pertaining to disarmament, arms control, and modern threats and challenges to peace and security continue to demand our earnest consideration. It is anticipated that today's meeting will serve as a significant function in tackling issues pertinent to the reform of the international financial architecture and enhancing the global response to modern threats and challenges. The inclusion of climate and water agenda in the final document of this summit underscores the imperative for sustained and urgent action by member states and other stakeholders to secure a peaceful and sustainable future for the generations to come. According to the latest data from the United Nations, while there have been some improvements, the progress in the field of water and sanitation remains insufficient. Therefore, we are committed to enhancing our collaborative efforts with other nations to advance our constructive initiatives aimed at addressing water resource management and climate change. The ongoing implementation of the International Decade of Action Water for Sustainable Development 2018-2028 exemplifies our unwavering dedication to these critical issues. Distinguished participants, the adoption of the Pact for the Future as a forward-looking outcome of this summit aligns with the pressing reality that millions of civilians across diverse regions of the globe are vulnerable to a multitude of security threats. The actions of the United Nations in light of the swiftly evolving dynamics on the international arena underscore the necessity for nations worldwide to enhance their multilateral relationships. The international community can achieve success solely through dialogue and constructive collaboration aimed at addressing modern risks and challenges. Strengthening cooperation to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals is fundamentally reliant on collaborative efforts aimed at ensuring lasting peace and genuine stability. In this context, it is crucial for policymakers and government officials to engage in concerted and coordinated actions at the global level to enhance collaboration and promote comprehensive security. Tajikistan, in its capacity as the host nation of the Dushanbe counter-terrorism process, welcomes the incorporation of this critical issue into the Pact alongside other significant matters. It is important that we enhance international collaboration, facilitate the exchange of information, and strengthen capacity-building efforts to effectively counter the rise of terrorism, extremism, and other global menace. We reaffirm our commitment to the pivotal and coordinating role of the United Nations in this endeavour. Ladies and gentlemen, today we stand at a critical juncture facing an alarming rise in conflict across the globe, leading to unimaginable suffering and hundreds of thousands of loss among innocent civilians. As heads of state, it is necessary that we come together united by our shared vision for a world free from ravages of war. Let us commit to a collective effort to forge a lasting peace, alleviate human suffering, and prevent terrible consequences of conflicts. It is high time to take decisive action to empower the United Nations in its vital mission of the conflict resolution and to restore peace and stability to our planet. Together we can create a brighter future for all. I, in this context, respectfully propose the adoption of a special resolution by the United Nations entitled Decade of Promotion of Peace for Future Generations. Furthermore, it is imperative that the United Nations, along with agencies and international and regional financial institutions, intensify their efforts to coordinate the actions of the international community in pursuit of sustainable development. I'm confident that the deliberations at today's summit will establish a solid ground for addressing the pressing challenges of our time. I thank you for your attention.
I thank the President of the Republic of Tajikistan. Notwithstanding the provision of Decision 79/504 of 13 September, I invite His Excellency Alexandro Rossi and Her Excellency Milena Gasperoni, Captains Regent of the Republic of San Marino, to address the Assembly.
Okay. Mr. President, Mr. Secretary General, colleagues, the Republic of San Marino expresses deep concern about the armed conflict which are still ongoing around the world. We are now witnessing the highest number of wars since 1945, and the resulting devastating crises, such as worsening humanitarian crisis, bring every state face to face with its responsibilities. 80 years after World War II, during which the Republic of San Marino offered hospitality to over 100,000 refugees, our country has once again renewed its concrete solidarity and strong humanitarian commitment in favor of hundreds of Ukrainian citizens. The Republic of San Marino has taken in over 400 Ukrainian refugees, more than 1% of the entire San Marino population, thanks to the solidarity of public and private institutions, NGOs, and with the help of many volunteers. Together with the refugee crisis, the impact of conflicts may lead to a global food crisis. In its capacity of promoter of the resolution establishing 29th of September as the International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste, San Marino firmly believes that combating food loss and waste will help promote food security and welcomes all initiatives aimed at raising awareness of such responsible behavior. San Marino has decided to cooperate within the framework of international structures and mechanisms, at the top of which is United Nations Organization, because it firmly believes in dialogue, democracy, and respect for others, as founding values of peaceful coexistence among peoples. No one must remain indifferent to war, but instead we must all work responsibly to create the condition for dialogue and peace with the full involvement of international institutions.
The importance of dialogue and its relevance in democratic and inclusive societies are the basis for the plan of action to combat violent extremism and the radicalization that leads to terrorism. The Republic of San Marino still remembers the outstanding work carried out by the late diplomat Guido Bellati Ceccoli with regard to the religious dimension of intercultural dialogue, which made our country an important point of reference on this subject and led to the opening in the Republic of a place of prayer and meditation for different types of spirituality. The Republic of San Marino is convinced that this historically important summit and its final declaration, the Pact for the Future, whose principles are fully shared by our country, will give a new impetus to the entire multilateral system and to international cooperation in general, strengthening the UN institutions so they continue to represent a beacon for the protection of peace and human rights. Indeed, in the case of small states, international law is seen as the one and the only safeguard in the event of a threat to their existence, and multilateral fora represent a valuable megaphone to make their voices heard, which would otherwise remain unheard. Within international fora, San Marino has always contributed to highlighting the role that small states can play as facilitators of dialogue and promoters of peace. The Summit of the Future will pave the way toward action leading to a safe, peaceful, fair, equal, and sustainable world, and our Republic will actively contribute to the search for collective solutions for a future of peace and dialogue, a better and more sustainable future for us and for future generations, in accordance with international law, including the United Nations Charter. Thank you all.
I thank Captains Regent of the Republic of San Marino. I invite His Excellency Nikos Christodoulides, President of the Republic of Cyprus, to address the Assembly.
Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, last year's summit marked the beginning of a new phase as we collectively committed to accelerating progress towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. We reaffirm our commitment to the 2030 Agenda as our primary framework for addressing the multifaceted crisis facing humanity. This year is another pivotal moment as we should reinvigorate global efforts to success a sustainable future for all. Climate change, inequality, and conflict are only some of the multiple challenges the world faces today. Addressing them requires leadership and transformative action. The intergovernmental negotiations of the Pact for the Future, the Global Digital Compact, and the Declaration on Future Generations have revealed the extent of our perspectives. However, it is precisely this diversity and the bridging of different views, understandings, and expectations that is the true strength of multilateralism. I welcome the adoption of the Pact, and I commend the dedication of all who contributed to this, and primarily the co-facilitators. I truly believe that we can shape the future that reflects our shared values, even in complex negotiations. But our work does not end here. Ladies and gentlemen, as we move beyond this summit, Cyprus is ready to work alongside our partners in fostering collaboration between governments, intergovernmental organizations, civil society, and the private sector. In this interconnected world, networked multilateralism is essential. As a member of the European Union and the Asia-Pacific Group, and with strong ties to the small island developing states, Cyprus has a unique position, stands as a bridge between regions and perspectives. This vantage point equips us to better understand and address the concerns of our counterparts in Europe, Asia, the Pacific, and beyond. For Cyprus, climate change is not a distant threat. It is a reality. Droughts, rising sea levels, and extreme weather events affect our livelihoods and communities daily. Hence, we welcome the growing global commitment to addressing these urgent issues as reflected in the Pact for the Future. Dear colleagues, as a small island state, we are committed to working together alongside all UN member states to ensure the full enjoyment of human rights on equal footing. In this spirit of commitment, Cyprus has put forward its candidacy for the UN Human Rights Council for 2025-2027. Our focus will be on advancing the human rights of all, with particular attention to children, women, persons with disabilities, and other vulnerable groups. We will also promote cultural dialogue to bridge divides and combat discrimination. My country stands ready to continue collaborating with all UN member states, not only to defend human rights, but also to take concrete actions toward achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Together, we have the power and the responsibility to turn these ambitions to reality and ensure future generations inherit a world defined by justice, sustainability, and peace. Thank you very much.
I thank the President of the Republic of Cyprus, and I invite His Highness Prince Albert II, Sovereign Prince of Monaco, to address the Assembly.
Excellences,
Excellencies, I thank the Secretary-General, Mr. Antonio Guterres, for having convened this summit, which affords us a unique opportunity to consider the future which we want for our children, but also for our planet, our only home. By adopting a firm commitment to implement the 56 initiatives of the Pact, this establishes a bedrock for a new partnership for a fair, equitable, prosperous world for all. Moreover, the Declaration on Future Generations provides us with the necessary tools to provide our young people with opportunities to fully flourish in a healthy, harmonious environment while advancing the future as insecurity, conflicts, and terrorism, as well as transnational organized crime. All of these impact security and impede the development of our societies. Peace is our most valuable asset. There's a need to have access for the basic human rights. Without this, it is impossible to provide for a world that benefits all people. The restoration of peace and security is a collective responsibility. It is an urgent responsibility. President, we are aware that international tensions are exacerbated by environmental crises, climate change, loss of biodiversity, ecosystems, pollution on land and at sea. These are all exacerbating factors which we need to face. This is vital for the establishment of sustainable and peaceful societies. However, none of our objectives will be achieved if inclusion of all women and girls is not made a reality. Empowerment of women is critical to the achievement of economic, social, and political progress. Ensuring equal access to education, economic and decision-making realms facilitate not just their personal empowerment, but also help to ensure professional progress. So the unification of sports is very frequently, the unifying power of sports is underestimated very often. This brings together peoples and cultures and helps to bring down social barriers. My country will continue continue to endeavor to ensure that the contribution of sports to peace and inclusive social development is recognized rightly within the United Nations. Mr. President, we are committed to mitigating potential risks linked to the misuse of digital technologies. And we are endeavoring to establish adequate norms for ethical use of these technologies, which is respectful of both human rights and the basic freedoms of all people. We need to guarantee that the use of these technologies is not diverted for malicious purposes. To that end, we welcome the adoption of a global digital compact. This summit, Mr. President, is a milestone for the multilateral system. It affords us an opportunity to rethink multilateralism, to make it more able to surmount present-day and future challenges, and to help reinforce trust in international institutions. This is why it is critical to accelerate our efforts to reform the governance of our institutions with the aim of making them more inclusive and representative and reflective of present-day realities. Multidimensional crises which we are encountering have resulted in delays in the achievement of Agenda 2030, and yet we have the necessary tools, legal tools, technical tools, scientific tools to deliver sustainable and effective solutions to meet present-day challenges. Let us act together decisively, for the future which we aspire to depends upon our present commitment. Thank you.
I thank the Sovereign Prince of Monaco, and I now invite His Excellency Wesley W. Semina, President and Head of Government of the Federated States of Micronesia, to address the Assembly.
Thank you, President. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues, distinguished guests, I bring warm greetings from the people of the Federated States of Micronesia, as we say it back home, Kamorale. Micronesia has consistently voiced its concerns on the global stage, particularly in advocating for the reduction of green gas emissions in line with the 1.5 degrees Celsius pathway. We also championed initiatives to eliminate fossil fuel subsidies and transition away from the use of fossil fuels. This includes addressing non-CO2 emissions and short-lived climate pollutants in order to effectively combat the climate crisis, as these pollutants significantly contribute to global warming in the near term. By prioritizing their reduction, we can achieve more immediate temperature control, safeguard vulnerable communities, and enhance our efforts toward long-term climate goals. While we embrace the Pact for the future, we do have some concerns about the text as adopted. We would like to suggest that the United Nations ensure that the implementation of the Pact includes robust and lasting commitments to transition away from coal, oil, and gas in all sectors of society, aligning with the 1.5 centigrade limit in the Paris Agreement. Climate change poses an existential threat to the environmental stability, peace, and security in Micronesia. As rising sea levels and extreme weather events jeopardize our livelihoods and displace communities, it is imperative that we recognize the profound link between climate resilience and the survival of our people. We must foster international cooperation to address this climate crisis with urgency. Our planet is at a critical point of no return, so the time for action is now. We possess the tools, knowledge, and innovative spirit to combat climate change and protect our ecosystems. The Pact for the Future serves as a call to action, urging us to commit to ambitious climate targets and investments in renewable energy. Together, we must strive to create a green economy that prioritizes both our planet and our people. The challenges we face transcend borders. They are global in nature. From public health to economic stability, our interconnectedness necessitates collaboration that goes beyond nationality and ideology. Let us forge partnerships, share resources, and establish frameworks for our collective resilience. We have engaged in formal discussions since yesterday, resulting in the adoption of the Pact. So each of us needs to dream boldly and act decisively in order to make it a reality. Therefore, our vision for the future must be crafted collectively by leaders, innovators, and citizens alike. Let us empower the next generation with the tools and knowledge they need to thrive in an ever-changing world. The Pact for the future is crucial for the survival of the livelihoods and the well-being of humanity, especially in small island developing states like mine. We continue to face extreme challenges as a consequence of climate change, and our livelihoods stand on the brink of devastation. Therefore, I appeal to all of you to rally behind this pact so that we can safeguard the future of our people and our world. I thank you.
I thank the President and Head of Government of the Federated States of Micronesia. I invite His Excellency David Ranibok Adeang, President and Head of State of the Republic of Nauru, to address the Assembly.
Mr. President and General Secretary, Excellencies, I want to align my statement with the distinguished representatives of Uganda on behalf of the G77 and China, with Samoa on behalf of AOSIS, and with Vanuatu on behalf of PCITS. To the co-facilitators of the Summit of the Future, Namibia and Germany, I extend my sincere gratitude for tireless efforts on the Pact of the Future. Their exceptional leadership and commitment were crucial in guiding us to a successful conclusion amidst the immense challenges of this task. The Summit of the Future is our call to action. It's a call to rebuild trust, to reimagine our systems, and to secure a livable future. The Pact of the Future is our roadmap. Our priorities are clear: climate action, access to financing, and a reformed global governance that serves all nations. Nauru welcomes the Pact's ambition. And yet, as we consider this Pact, we must ask, does it truly address the needs of the most vulnerable? Does it offer more than lofty words and instead provide a roadmap with concrete commitments and financing for those who need it most? Implementation is paramount. We must transform our shared vision into a tangible reality, improving lives across every nation and every community. To achieve this, we need clear goals and robust metrics. These will be our compass, guiding our efforts and allowing us to track our progress transparently. We cannot and we must not content ourselves with words alone. The Pact recognizes the need for financial inclusion, but we must translate this into concrete action. The Pact's mention of renewable energy holds potential. Nauru is committed to powering our future with clean energy. We appreciate the reference to the MVI. The Pact acknowledges the complexity of our vulnerabilities, but we must see this reflected in global policies and programs. And we further call upon the IFI and MDBs to integrate the MVI into their frameworks. It is not just another statistic. It is a tool that provides a more accurate picture of our national circumstances, our strengths, our challenges, and our potential. The path ahead will not be easy. It demands commitment, innovative thinking, and the courage to challenge existing norms. We will judge this Pact not on the words spoken here, but on the actions taken in the years to come. And as we leave this summit, let us carry with us not just hope, but determination. Let our actions speak louder than our words, and let us work to ensure that the Pact for the future delivers on its promise. Mataba.
I thank the President and Head of State of the Republic of Nauru, and I invite His Excellency José Raúl Mulino Quintero, President of the Republic of Panama, to address the Assembly.
Muy buenos días.
Good morning. Madam President, distinguished Secretary General, Excellencies. Today, I am addressing you on behalf of the Republic of Panama, a country of great strategic value located in the heart of the Western Hemisphere. In Panama, 64.8% of the population is between the ages of 15 and 64. That means a large number of people of working age. A significant number of them are youth. At the 75th anniversary of the United Nations, countries requested Secretary General Antonio Guterres to provide a report with recommendations to advance our common agenda. Many suggestions were made. However, there is one constant, according to the Secretary General. The decisions we take or fail to take today may mean either further backsliding or progress towards a greener, better, and safer future. For that reason, we cannot speak of a summit of the future and the documents resulting from it without mentioning the SG's Our Common Agenda. It serves as a mechanism to accelerate the implementation of existing agreements, including the SDGs. By general consensus, we have adopted the Pact for the Future, the Declaration on Future Generations, and the Global Digital Compact. These documents contain ideals for the well-being of humanity over the long term, seeing today's generations as depositories of a legacy for future generations. We have endorsed the appeal of the Secretary General to implement reforms introduced and even deeper reforms through meaningful action. The Summit of the Future, with the participation of all global leaders, is a golden opportunity to raise up our voice, reaffirm our commitment to bolstering this multilateral system in such important areas as sustainable development and financing for development, international peace and security, science, technology, and innovation, and digital cooperation, youth and future generations, and the transformation of global governance. It is a well-known fact that the challenges we face are growing much faster than our capacity to resolve them, and we cannot do the job on our own. And therefore, the Summit of the Future is a crucial step towards building a stronger and more effective multilateralism. If these actions are taken, humanity has the opportunity to act and to reform global institutions, including the Security Council and the international financial architecture, so that they can respond to the political and economic realities of the future. Agenda 2030 has slowed down. Current conflicts are inflicting suffering. Poverty and hunger have already reached critical levels in many countries, while the SDGs seem to be further and further away. Inequality, insecurity, and violence have risen daily, while access to quality education is lagging behind. Moreover, the growing fear of the use of nuclear weapons resulting from open conflicts is yet one more source of concern. We must not leave future generations a world of inequality, injustice, discrimination, misogyny, and racism in all its new forms. These attitudes erode good faith and trust of mankind. President, I cannot conclude without welcoming the proposals put forward in an effort to ensure greater political representation, transformative education, professional training, and continuous learning for our young people. the creation, the establishment of a UN Futures Lab, as well as the appointment of a UN Special Envoy to guarantee that budget and political decisions take account of repercussions on future generations are imperative. Panama is a country which has cemented its international relations in dialogue, peace, and multilateralism, is committed to strive to comply with these actions stemming from the Pact for the Future. Our young people, our children are important to us, and we listen to them always. They are the ones who will shoulder this responsibility to fulfill these actions, and that is why we have met here, to take the first step. Thank you.
I thank the President of the Republic of Panama, and I invite Her Excellency Hilda Heine, President of the Republic of the Marshall Islands, to address the Assembly.
Mr. President, Mr. Secretary General, Excellencies, the Republic of the Marshall Islands welcomes the Summit and Pact of the Future as an important opportunity to better match our collective political ambitions with a more effective UN system to help deliver results. Our sustainable development and security challenges are overwhelming. Rightly, the Pact has encouraged security and development agenda and assistance to be better aligned, a vital recognition that in the Pacific and in other fragile regions, development and security are closely linked. And as a low-lying atoll nation and small island developing state, climate remains our biggest security threat. By better emphasizing peace building, we can help to reduce vulnerability to rising seas and to rising tensions alike. This meeting should truly be for the future and to boost the rightful participation of the youngest and future generations. It is youth, the leaders of tomorrow, who will face the strongest consequences of inaction today. Mr. President, the global digital divide is a major development challenge for our Pacific Island region. We are some of the most isolated places on Earth. We welcome the Global Digital Compact and highlight our joint program to advance digitalization, working with assistance across the UN system. It is important that more actions continue to show that we all can do more than commit. We can implement. Mr. President, the document ultimately reflects, not shapes, the fragmented multilateral platform. It is hard not to be frustrated over apparent political limitations. There is an incredible and persistent gap between ambitious solutions and international finance at hand. We have all seen far too many set it and forget it moments at international summits. And the international system is at risk of glossing over where we all have fallen short, instead of identifying and addressing the core causes. Many of the SDGs remain stuck in place despite our ambition and political will, and we cannot keep papering over the sobering shortcomings without arriving at the conclusion that the money just isn't there, or when it is so distant that it never reaches our shores and local communities. Finally, it will be an important task to develop clear lines and linkages between the Pact of the Future and the Antigua-Abbas agenda for SIDS. Small island nations need and deserve a dedicated focus, which we all adopted earlier this year. But if this pact is to be a blueprint for future partnership, then we cannot leave SIDS out of global goal setting. Mr. President, Taiwan remains a key partner to the Marshall Islands. Taiwan's important partnership deserves appropriate recognition. If we are to truly leave no one behind, then Taiwan deserves meaningful and enhanced participation in the UN system. Thank you.
I thank the President of the Republic of the Marshall Islands, and I invite His Excellency Surendra Samuel Whips, President of the Republic of Palau, to address the Assembly.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Ali from Palau. Our tradition of bull as sustainable resource management practices, rooted in conservation and social order, has guided us toward sustainability for centuries, protecting our natural resources for future generations. As the least contributors to climate change, we face its harshest effects, rising sea levels and extreme weather threaten our hospitals, schools, and food security, putting our children's future at risk. Our tradition of stewardship through the bull contrasts sharply with the global crisis we now confront, one we had little hand in creating. The fossil fuel addiction has worsened inequality and poverty. By returning to our traditions of the bull, sustainable ocean resource management, coupled with science and technology, we can lift our people out of poverty, restore balance to our ecosystems, and effectively combat climate change. We appreciate international funding for climate resilience. However, the burdensome requirements make it inaccessible. Financing tailored to special circumstances of SIDS is critical for effective climate action. The SDGs represent our vision of a world free from poverty and conflict. However, global progress is falling short, with only 15% of the targets on track and 37% regressing. The reality is particularly challenging for small island states with limited resources. World leaders need to take decisive action, and corporate leaders need to integrate sustainability into their business practices. Despite our challenges, we have made significant strides in accelerating sustainable development, and education has always been a top priority, and we have successfully improved access to education and vocational training by implementing online learning options for students in rural areas and expanding vocational programs. To address food security and combat NCDs, we have launched Kaledang Alet, Our Food is Our Responsibility, the initiative which aims to boost domestic food production and reduce food imports from 80 to 60% by 2030. Additionally, we are building a national fishing port to support fisheries, maximize the value of our tuna fisheries, and foster a thriving, sustainable blue economy. Building our protected areas network and our Palau National Marine Sanctuary, we are implementing a multi-sectoral marine spatial planning approach to achieve 100% effective ocean management, prioritizing conservation of domestic fishing zones and tourism sites based on science, data, and traditional knowledge. Aligning with the goal of 30 by 30, we are collaborating with other Pacific Island and partners to discuss a regional ocean protection and production measures, recognizing the power of collective action. The Unlocking Blue Pacific Prosperity, which was launched at COP28, which aims to create a regional movement that promotes 100% effective ocean management, resilient food systems, and sustainable financing for development. Investments are underway, and we call for even greater investments to ensure its full potential is realized. As a big ocean state, we are deeply connected to the ocean. A healthy ocean means a healthy planet. And now more than ever, we must resist the temptation to rush into deep seabed mining, which threatens irreparable harm to our ocean, and the technologies heralded as part of the green transition must not turn our largest carbon sink, the ocean, into a casualty of short-sighted greed. If we can send people to space, surely we can innovate to meet our energy needs without exploiting the seabed and engaging in other destructive practices. We acknowledge Taiwan's valuable contribution to global sustainable development and technical cooperation. The irony of this year's UN General Assembly's theme, leaving no one behind, is starkly evident
I thank the President of the Republic of Palau. I invite His Excellency Fare Eswatini Nasinga, President of the Tongolese Republic, to address the Assembly.
Distinguished General Assembly President, ladies and gentlemen, heads of state and government, UN Secretary General, heads of delegations, ladies and gentlemen, 8 decades ago, this institution was created, and the world was emerging from the second global conflict, and the future looked bright and promising. But today, complex crises throughout the planet mean that we must rethink our models for international cooperation and development. If we remain passive, then these crises and these models may well lead our planet to a dark future. Let us therefore take this opportunity we have here to change direction. The first affirmation would be that when you have a systematic crisis, you need a global response. Food security, ecology crises mean that countries alone cannot address all of these issues. And these complex crises are interconnected, and they hit regions of the world that are often not involved at the starting point, but which are impacted by the fallout. There needs to be a better future for our current and future generations. We must coordinate our efforts as states, and these collective efforts must be carried out within renewed global policies, because multilateralism itself needs to be rethought. The governance of our global institutions has now become obsolete, and the multilateral discussions have shown that they have limits. To find a truly effective solution, we need international global cooperation. At this stage, allow me to say a few words about Africa. If you look at the future, you need to look at Africa. Africa will continue to host most of the world's youth, and that is where there is the potential to build the strongest markets, in particular new future markets linked to green and blue economies, and that's where we need to experiment with new types of tripartite partnerships in the public and private sectors. These are decisive so that our actions today will have a positive and lasting impact on the future. In Africa as well as elsewhere, I think the state must play a leading, coordinating role, because the state alone can ensure progress for its peoples. It can provide guidance for present and future generations. In Togo, We are attempting to build a strong state, and we see our state at the heart of all of the problems related to development and humanitarian issues. The private sector, public sector, and civil society are involved, and I see that despite our efforts in recent years, international aid often does not meet the requirements and the needs of populations. That is why we must bolster the role of states, African states, and make them a genuine, fair, strategic partner. Development efforts are essential and must be furthered. They must be financed, but there must also be political guidance. And finally, there needs to be greater respect for and involvement of African countries in the international arena. For multilateralism to truly be inclusive, then it must respect the dignity and the equality of representation for our peoples. We can build a better future only if all voices are heard and respected. And that means leaving no one behind. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, my country is prepared to play its full role in this great collective to forge a better future. We believe that it is working together in a spirit of solidarity and mutual respect that we will be able to meet the challenges of our times and offer our children a fairer, more prosperous world. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
I thank the President of the Togolese Republic. I invite His Excellency Tiemoko Melie Kone, Vice President of the Republic of Côte d'Ivoire, to address.
Mr. President of the General Assembly, Mr. Secretary General, ladies and gentlemen, I wish, on behalf of His Excellency Alassane Ouattara, President of the Republic of Côte d'Ivoire, to applaud you for convening this summit in such a timely manner. The magnitude of our mobilization reflects the grasp of the challenges related to this summit, which marks a historic turning point in our efforts to reshape the planet. International peace and security are gravely imperiled, with wars that are plaguing every continent. The human and material consequences of these conflicts are abhorrent, and no sustainable solution has yet appeared on the horizon. These conflicts compromise the cause of peace, worsening hunger and poverty, and blighting the future of much of humanity, who are facing insufficient mobilization of resources to finance the Sustainable Development Goals. In the light of these challenges, which gravely imperil the future of the world, we reaffirm our call for more solidarity among nations and for more financing, more adequate financing of Agenda 2030 and the African Union Agenda 2063. In this spirit, my country welcomes the surge of solidarity which led to the adoption of ambitious documents of our summit, namely the Pact for the Future and its accompanying annexes. Our expectation is that the Pact will foster the advent of a just, sustainable world through concrete and decisive actions. I welcome the support for the initiatives of the Secretary General, as well as the prioritization of preventing all forms of violence and security-related threats, as well as the prioritization of peaceful resolution of disputes for harmony among states. Mr. President, in the areas of science, technology, and innovation, as well as digital cooperation, we have a duty to step up multi-party cooperation and to reinforce partnerships to build capacity, transfer technology, and mobilize the necessary financial resources to facilitate access to opportunities from science and technologies, to stimulate innovation, to bridge the digital divide, and improve governance of emerging technologies, specifically artificial intelligence. The digital pact, which we have adopted, is a part of this momentum, and we believe will help us to tackle critical challenges. I turn to young people and succeeding generations. There is a need to promote high-quality education, social inclusion, and the representation of young people in decision-making bodies. This is key. Young people are agents for development to build and transform model societies. Lastly, global governance that is more just, more representative, and more inclusive. This is more important than ever before. To that end, multilateralism needs to be revitalized to encourage more robust international cooperation. The time has arrived to tailor international financial institutions and global governance to present-day realities, while at the same time paying particular attention to the modernization of the United Nations, specifically the reform of the Security Council. Mr. President, Côte d'Ivoire cherishes the hope that we will see the effective implementation of the recommendations from the summit for the benefit of young generations and for a future of peace and prosperity for all. Thank you.
Thank the President. Thank the Vice President of the Republic of Côte d'Ivoire. I now invite His Excellency Teodoro Obiang Nguema Umbasoko, Vice President in charge of National Defense and State Security of the Republic of Equatorial Guinea, to address the Assembly.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I am speaking on behalf of His Excellency Obang Biabaso, President of the Republic of Equatorial Guinea. I'd like to begin by congratulating the Secretary General and the President of the General Assembly for taking this initiative and for convening this Summit of the Future, where we have adopted the Pact for the Future. Today, we have an opportunity to come together at a turning point in our history, at a time when the decisions we take pursuant to this pact will define the future of our relationships and the future for the international community. Mr. President, as we understand it, it is quite unlikely that we will achieve the future we all want if we do not recognize the crucial role played by Africa, given its diversity and vast resources. Africa represents both a challenge and an opportunity as we seek a future of peace and security. Silencing the guns, multilateralism, inclusiveness, financing for inclusive, equitable, sustainable development, ensuring that no country is left behind. To achieve all of these goals, we need a renewed commitment in order to mobilize financial resources, both public and private. And they must be earmarked for projects which will promote environmental sustainability, job creation, and development. International cooperation is essential to build resilient and sustainable infrastructures to benefit all generations. There can be no better future if we do not address unilateral coercive measures and sanctions, racism, and attempts to destabilize our countries, neocolonialist approaches, and other such mechanisms, as well as pressure and blockades which do nothing but obstruct the future of other countries, particularly the Global South. Mr. President, this Pact for the Future must involve our youth, they are the future generations, and we must therefore invest in their education, their health, and their well-being. They must be drivers of change. In conclusion, the Summit of the Future is an opportunity to renew our commitments to the principles of the UN Charter and to work together towards a more peaceful world, a prosperous and safer world. Equatorial Guinea is calling on all countries from the global north and from the global south to come together, to join our efforts, and together to build a future where every individual, regardless of their origin, race, gender, or belief, can live in dignity and with hope. Thank you.
I thank the Vice President in charge of National Defense and State Security of the Republic of Equatorial Guinea. May I now invite His Excellency Charlotte Salvai Tabimasmas, Prime Minister of the Republic of Vanuatu, on behalf of the Pacific Small Island Developing States.
Mr. President, Excellencies, Head of the States and Governments, Mr. Secretary General, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor to deliver this statement as the Chair of the Pacific Small Island Development States represented in New York. We align ourselves with the statement delivered by Uganda on behalf of the Group of 77 and China, Samoa on behalf of AOCs, and Tonga on behalf of the Pacific Island Forum. We are on the front line of the climate crisis. The lives, livelihoods, security, and well-being of our people are threatened by the rising tides of inactions. We are here today to merely exchange words, but to forge a pact for the future, a pact that will determine the fate of our planet and the lives of the generation yet unborn. Excellencies, proceeds endorse the intended outcomes of this summit. We understand that the Pact for the Future, the Declaration on Future Generations, and the Global Digital Compact are more than just a document. They are a blueprint for a world which is equitable, sustainable, and resilient. These frameworks demand transformative multilateralism, urgent climate actions, and the responsible use of digital technology. The stakes could not be higher. As a small island developing state, we confront the devastating impact of climate change every day. Rising sea levels, intensified natural disasters, and the erosion of our ecosystem are our daily reality. We must act now. The commitment outlined in the Pact for the Future and the Declaration on our Future Generations compel us to ensure that our action today do not compromise the rights and well-being of those who will inherit this planet. We must confront the cause and impact of climate change head-on, scaling our efforts to protect the environment and accelerate our transition to a sustainable future. Excellencies, outcome of the COP28 and anticipated decisions at COP29 are pivotal in this endeavor. We reaffirm the critical need to accelerate climate action during this decisive decade, reflecting equity, the principle of common but differentiated responsibility and respective capabilities. We welcome the call on climate finance, starting on a flow of US $100 billion per year, with a focus on the needs of developing countries. As nations disproportionately impacted by climate change, the PCIDS urges the international community to close the adaptation finance gap that severely affects developing countries, particularly small island developing states. Moreover, we emphasize the necessity of enhancing international cooperation and support to inspire greater ambition in the next round of nationally determined contribution. We must urgently accelerate the development, transfer, and deployment of renewable energy technology. Excellencies, climate change is more merely an environment issue. It is a security issue that exacerbates social tensions, economic security, and humanitarian disaster. We must integrate climate change into peace operation mandates and ensure comprehensive risk assessment that address the needs of vulnerable groups, including women, children, and indigenous people. We all recognize the transformative potential of digital technologies, as outlined in the Global Digital Compact. However, this potential can only be realized if we bridge the profound digital divides that exists between our countries. Our digital future must be inclusive, safe, secure, and empowering all people to participate fully in the digital economy and society. We must harness digital technology to advance sustainable development, protect human rights, and ensure that no one is left behind. Let us remember the future we want within our grasp, but only if we have the courage to seize it. The Pact for the Future, the Declaration on Future Generations, and the Global Digital Compact offer us pathways grounded in solidarity, hope, equity, and justice to create a world where all people can thrive in peace, prosperity. We stand ready to work with all nations to turn these commitments into action to protect our planet and secure a brighter future for all. Thank you.
I thank the Prime Minister of the Republic of Vanuatu. Now I invite His Excellency Irakli Kobakidze, Prime Minister of Georgia, to address the Assembly.
Dear Mr. President, esteemed guests, 3 years ago, in our common agenda, the Secretary General proposed a summit of the future, aiming to promote a new global consensus on delivering a better present and safeguarding the future for generations to come. Today, that vision is realized as we gather, united in our commitment to rebuild trust and seek multilateral solutions for a better tomorrow. In today's increasingly complex and rapidly evolving world, achieving a fairer future is more pressing than ever. We face unprecedented challenges, from the lingering effects of the pandemic to persistent conflicts and deepening socioeconomic disparities, humanitarian crisis, and the escalating threat of climate change. As a result, the world is not on track to meet the goals we have set for ourselves. The Secretary General's recent report on progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals shows that only 17% of SDG targets are on course to be achieved. In the light of these overwhelming global issues, this summit presents a unique opportunity to demonstrate the power of effective global cooperation and multilateralism. Its outcomes will significantly advance the 2030 agenda, aligned with the declaration of the SDG Summit. At this crucial moment, Georgia stands ready to unite with the international community in this shared endeavor. The Pact of the Future offers us a chance to transform the success of this summit into meaningful, lasting transformation. It sets out a more effective course leading to specific and sustainable progress for future generations. In this spirit, we welcome the adoption of the Pact, including the Global Digital Compact and the Declaration on Future Generations annexed to the Pact, and we look forward to its swift implementation. It is clear that peace and security are the foundations of human rights and sustainable development. In a world marred by conflicts, aggressions, and forced displacement, the Pact represents a crucial path forward, promoting global peace and security through adherence to the UN Charter and international law, strengthening accountability, and ending impunity. By following this path, we will uphold human rights and achieve sustainable development. In our digitized world, where technology presents both tremendous opportunities and challenges, the Global Digital Compact should serve as a roadmap towards an open, secure, and inclusive digital future. Global digital cooperation is key to leveraging the advantages of cutting-edge technologies, promoting human rights online and offline, and eliminating the risks posed by the misuse of technology. We believe it's essential to incorporate the viewpoints of future generations into our policy frameworks, ensuring that the long-term impacts of our actions are considered. The Declaration on Future Generations is a crucial tool for ensuring that their voices are heard and their concerns are addressed in shaping a sustainable future. The Summit of the Future has provided a vital platform for fostering international cooperation and solidarity. As we move forward, the real challenge will be translating our commitments into tangible actions through the effective implementation of the Pact. Let us sustain this momentum and work together to build a better tomorrow where the values of this organization are fully respected and upheld. Thank you very much.
Thank the Prime Minister of Georgia. I now invite Her Excellency Giorgia Meloni, President of the Council of Ministers of the Republic of Italy, to address the Assembly.
Secretary General, dear fellow delegates, the pact that we have undersigned is the result of complex negotiations for which I want to thank the President of the General Assembly, the negotiators, and of course all of the member states. The phase that now begins, that of implementation, is clearly even more complex, but definitely more crucial. The challenges that history has placed before us are manifold and multiform. Climate change, economic inequalities, humanitarian and health crises, transnational crime, and armed conflicts, starting with the unacceptable war of aggression of Russia on the country of Ukraine that make international security increasingly precarious. Faced with such a difficult scenario, we have no choice but to act. Because I think it is clear to all that we live in a time of crisis. Yet, crises always conceal opportunities. The word crisis, after all, derives from the ancient Greek term krisis, meaning choice, decision. Crises, therefore, force us to question ourselves. They force us to take a stand and do not allow for hesitation. We know that no state can effectively master current challenges on its own. And that is why Italy is a staunch supporter of multilateralism and of its most representative institution, the United Nations, the forum where each and every voice is heard, where we are called to learn, to understand each other, and to respect each other. Of course, any organization is effective if its rules are fair and mutually agreed. That is why we are persuaded that any reform of the UN governance, notably of its Security Council, cannot disregard the principles of equality, democracy, and representativeness. The reform makes sense if performed for everyone and not just for some. We're not interested in creating new hierarchies, and we don't believe that there are Class A nations and Class B nations. There are simply nations with their own histories, specificities, and citizens who have the same rights, because in our view, all humans are born free and equal. It also means rethinking in new ways about cooperation between nations. Italy has done so with the Mattei Plan for Africa, an investment plan designed to cooperate with African nations through an approach that is neither paternalistic nor charitable or predatory, but based on respect and the right for each one of us to compete on equal terms. It is our recipe to promote the development of a continent too often undervalued, build its stability, and finally guarantee one right denied to too many young people, that is, the right not to have to immigrate. And when talking about development, we cannot fail to address the new frontiers of technological innovation, starting with generative artificial intelligence, a phenomenon on which I'm afraid there's still insufficient awareness. AI is first and foremost a great multiplier, but the question we must pose ourselves is, what do we want to multiply? To put it bluntly, if this multiplier were used to cure still incurable diseases, then it would contribute to the common good. But if, on the other hand, that multiplier were used to further upset global balances, then the resulting scenarios would be potentially catastrophic. Machines will not answer these questions. Only we can do it. Politics must do it. And that is why it is crucial that AI be harnessed by human beings and be human-centric. All such issues are addressed by this pact and stand at the core of Italy's G7 presidency agenda. This is the role of multilateralism, not a club where people gather to write useless documents crammed with good intentions, but rather the forum where we must tackle decision-making urgency, where ideas must become actions, combining different sensibilities. Thank you.
President of the Council of Ministers of the Republic of Italy. I now invite His Excellency Andrej Plenković, Prime Minister of the Republic of Croatia, to address the Assembly.
Mr. President of the General Assembly, Mr. Secretary General, Excellencies, we have gathered here today driven by a common purpose, concern for the present and a commitment to shaping a better future. This summit is crucial because the choices we make now will define the world for future generations. I thank Germany and Namibia, alongside Sweden, Zambia, Jamaica, and the Netherlands, for their leadership in guiding this essential global dialogue. Today, the world faces an alarming surge in conflicts. The cooperative spirit that has long underpinned international relations, embodied by the United Nations, is under severe strain. The Russian aggression against Ukraine, the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas in Gaza and wider, as well as other global hostilities, are existential threats to global peace, security, and humanity. These challenges do not affect just one region. They endanger us all. In these turbulent times, restoring trust and solidarity among nations is not merely desirable, it is imperative. Croatia understands this deeply. 30 years ago, much like Ukraine today, we were a nation ravaged by war, defending our sovereignty against a far more powerful aggressor. Today, Croatia stands as a proud member of both NATO and the European Union. Our painful history has shaped Croatia's resilience and provided us with a unique understanding of the challenges that come with conflict. Ladies and gentlemen, despite the myriad challenges we face, we must prioritize sustainable development as a foundation for global peace and security. Sustainable development is not just an aspiration, it is essential for stability. To achieve this, we must foster global solidarity and urgently reform the international financial architecture to support these goals. Croatia firmly believes that effective multilateralism, rooted in respect for international law, the UN Charter, and genuine partnership is the way forward. Only through a unified approach, combining security, development, and human rights, can we ensure prosperity for all. Croatia's experience as a chair of the Peacebuilding Commission last year and our efforts in peacebuilding are now integral to the global peace framework. This is our legacy. We are also committed to the efficient implementation of the 2030 Agenda and its Sustainable Development Goals. I'm proud to say that Croatia currently ranks 8th out of 193 countries in Sustainable Development Goals implementation. This achievement reflects our commitment to sustainable growth and positions Croatia as a model how even smaller nations can lead by example. We continue to advance 3 key processes: digital transformation, demographic renewal, and decarbonization. These priorities, embedded in our national policies, drive our growth while ensuring sustainability. Croatia's forward-looking vision balances economic progress with social responsibility. Looking ahead, I see 3 critical areas that require our collective attention. First, conflict prevention is more urgent than ever. Our experience in Croatia reminds us of the importance of early action and diplomacy to avoid unnecessary suffering. Second, we must not waver in our commitment to sustainable development. Climate action, protecting biodiversity and reversing environmental degradation are essential for our survival. Third, we must strive for a more equitable and inclusive global governance system. International institutions must evolve to be more representative, promoting human rights and social development that reflect the diversity of the world's nations. The outcome of this summit provides us with a clear roadmap. Now it is up to us to turn these plans into reality. The time to act is now. Croatia stands ready to contribute our joint effort of a more just, peaceful, and sustainable global order. Thank you.
I thank the Prime Minister of the Republic of Croatia. I now invite His Excellency Jonas Gahr Støre, Prime Minister of Norway, to address the Assembly.
With so much dividing us and with so many wars going on, I think we can salute yesterday's agreement and that we came together and be able to agree on ambitious targets. The Pact for the Future provides a vision for this across all the UN's 3 main pillars. That should be saluted. Let me highlight 3 points from the Norwegian perspective, Mr. President. First, we have reaffirmed our commitment to international law, including human rights. The disregard for human life and international law that we are seeing today must not be allowed to continue. Universally agreed rules and rights remain an indispensable foundation for a peaceful, prosperous, and just world. Those who deliberately breach it must be held accountable. Second, we urgently need to address climate change, cut emissions, transform our energy systems, and protect the environment. We must deliver on our pledges. We stand firmly by agreed commitments and keep our ambitions high. We need to close the extensive financing gap to achieve the SDGs, leaving no one behind. This includes increasing climate finance and investments. Together with Mexico, Nepal, and Zambia, Norway will serve as co-facilitator for the next conference on financing for development. We are committed to working with all member states to achieve an ambitious outcome in Seville this year. Mr. Chairman, our pact rightfully addresses the need to provide sufficient and timely debt relief to countries in debt distress, to reform the multilateral banks, and to promote more inclusive and effective tax cooperation. Norway will continue to engage in an active and constructive manner to develop a UN framework convention on international tax cooperation. We must work towards an inclusive, open, and secure digital future for all. It's part of our dialogue here at the UN today. Accessibility is key, particularly for the least developed countries. Some 2.6 billion people remain excluded from the digital world. For too many people also, they lack access to electricity. Norway supports and actively promotes the initiative by the World Bank and the African Development Bank, the Mission 300, to provide 300 million people in Africa with electricity by the end of this decade. Norway is committed to bridging the digital divide. Our efforts include advancing digital public goods and ensuring digital ID access for all. We also urge stronger cooperation among the large states on a safe artificial intelligence regulation that will give us the opportunities of this technology and limit the threats. Thirdly, Mr. President, sustainable development cannot be achieved without peace and security. It almost goes without saying. Preventive diplomacy and peace building must be at the center of our efforts. It is essential to ensure women's participation in all aspects of the peace and security agenda. There are powerful decisions made here by the UN on this issue earlier. It should be highlighted again. We need a more transparent, inclusive and effective Security Council with greater limitations to the use of veto. We need to address the historical injustice against Africa and improve the representation of underrepresented regions. The General Assembly plays a vital role in maintaining international peace and security in close cooperation with the Security Council. Mr. President, we should expect from the Security Council that it can get its act together and end the war of aggression that Russia is conducting against Ukraine, and to weigh in and help end the escalation of hostilities in the Middle East, and to work towards a two-state solution, giving the Palestinians their right of a state, and a two-state solution where Israelis and Palestinians can live side by side in peace. The solutions can only be found in close cooperation with other stakeholders, also in the civil and private sector. So friends and colleagues, a lot to be done. The Pact for the Future is a commitment to one another, to future generations, providing a roadmap for building a better world. Now that work putting the Pact into action begins, and Norway is eager to get started. Thank you, Mr. President.
To thank the Prime Minister of Norway. Now I invite His Excellency John Basilio, Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Economic Development and Investment of Belize, to address the Assembly.
Excellencies, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, the adoption of the Pact for the Future, the Global Digital Compact, and the Declaration on Future Generations must not be seen as an end, but rather as a beginning. While these outcomes lay a foundation for action, they represent only a floor for a much greater ambition that is needed to transform our world for present and future generations. The world faces a triple planetary crisis and a development crisis. Human and planetary capacities are approaching limits from which there may be no rebound. Our development and climate goals are slipping further away from our reach, and yet there has been no effective global response. To say we will do what we have failed to do will not suffice. Since the adoption of the Paris Agreement, every year has seen record-breaking climate impacts. For the first time, over a 12-month period spanning February 2023 to January 2024, global warming exceeded 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. If that trend persists, then Paris alone will not be enough, nor will our promise to accelerate the implementation of the 2030 Agenda. These are unprecedented times. They demand unprecedented action across whole systems at all levels and at all times, guided by values and principles we espouse as a United Nations. We must ensure the dignity of people. We need to reimagine and remake this world into one that is just, secure, and that will endure, one in which every voice matters. Bringing the voices from the margins to the center, the voices of young people, women, indigenous people, and the voices of countries like my own, the small island developing states. They should benchmark our collective ambition, because a better tomorrow can only be realized if solutions respond to the most urgent of needs, their needs. In Belize, the youth are calling for opportunities to harness individual and technological potential. They need sustained investment in good, decent education, comprehensive health care, and a greener and bluer economy that targets support for micro, small, and medium enterprises and startups. We can go faster with international support, but that support must be tailored to the unique characteristics of small island developing states. The Antigua and Barbuda agenda for SIDS is a forward-looking blueprint for resilient prosperity. It defines our vision and what the international community can do to help us achieve that vision. My country, like other small island developing states, still lack representation where decisions are being made on our behalf. As a placebo, we may be given the privilege for a 5-minute intervention on a matter that will have consequential impacts on our future. Likewise, the international financial architecture, even in its current phase of reform, is built on a foundation of a bygone era. The dynamics of power are ever-changing. We need to build these institutions to be effective well into the future. Excellencies, today I affirm Belize's unwavering commitment to achieve the SDGs. They are the only ambitious, universally agreed blueprint to achieve a sustainable and equitable future for all. Let us then push harder for justice, go deeper for change, and make our actions meaningful for everyone. More than an opportunity, the Summit of the Future is a challenge. Let us rise up to that challenge, go beyond the confines of our present context, be bold in our vision, and embrace a much greater ambition for a better tomorrow. Thank you.
I thank the Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Economic Development and Investment of Belize. I now invite His Excellency Nikol Pashinyan, Prime Minister of the Republic of Armenia, to address the Assembly.
President of the General Assembly, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is particularly significant for me to take part in this Summit of the Future because I have received my current mandate of the Prime Minister of the Republic of Armenia in the parliamentary elections under the slogan of our party, There is a Future. All the problems we are facing today are directly or indirectly related to the decisions made or haven't been made at some point in the past, and the same we can say about all the successes and achievements of today. We cannot change the past. We cannot change a lot even today, because today is to some extent a part of the past. But shaping the future is today's most important task. The agenda of our actions is also known: peace, security, prosperity, freedom, justice, human rights, artificial intelligence, climate change. But what is of high importance is the concept that we should put in the basis of our vision of the future, and consequently how to build the future. It may sound strange, but the most important thing we can do for the future is to create positive narratives and focus on the possibilities of creating the foundations for them, regardless of whether they exist at the moment or not. One of the reasons for today's global crisis is that international formats have long become an arena for mutual accusations, threats, and the places where crises and deadlocks take place or being announced. I can hardly remember a positive speech on behalf either of myself or other leaders on international platforms. And there are objective reasons for this. There is little material for positive discourse. And maybe it's because in the past there was very little or there was no any positive narrative at all. We usually come to UN to declare how bad it is going to be, because the facts proving this are a lot and everywhere. So it doesn't require much effort to see them. Effort should be made to see the prerequisite of a good future and think about them, because what happens in reality first happens in our minds. My party adopted the slogan, "There is a future," under the conditions when it seemed that there was no hope for optimism in our region. Now this happens globally, and at the summit of the future, I want to voice that belief of there is a future. And by doing this, I want to have my portion of contribution. Unlike the previous 3 times, this year at the General Assembly, I will more concentrate on opportunities rather than accusing neighboring countries in my speech. And this will provide room for positive thinking and for talking about the possibilities. Yes, for now, let's only talk, since in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Therefore, it is necessary to start with the good words. It is necessary to bring forward the slogan, "There is a future," as a theorem, and to work to prove it. Let's do it. Thank you for your attention.
I thank the Prime Minister of the Republic of Armenia. Now I invite His Excellency Luc Frieden, Prime Minister of the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg, to address the Assembly.
Monsieur le Président,
Mr. President, Mr. Secretary General, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to speak before you for the first time at the United Nations as the Prime Minister of Luxembourg at this Summit for the Future. Luxembourg is well positioned to understand that no country, regardless of its size, can tackle the challenges it faces single-handedly. This is an observation which lies at the heart of our multilateral commitment. We were present when the United Nations Charter was signed in San Francisco because the people of Luxembourg, like all the peoples of the United Nations, was resolved to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, as has so eloquently been enshrined in the preamble of the Charter. And alas, today the scourge of war is afflicting peoples throughout the world. I am thinking of the people of Ukraine who have, with exceptional courage, been resisting the war of aggression being waged by the President of the Russian Federation. I am thinking of the peoples plagued by conflict in the Middle East. I'm thinking of African peoples, those in the Sudan, in Sahel, and elsewhere, plagued by war, a lack of security, and terrorism. The international order founded in the rule of law is in crisis. Flagrant violations of the Charter and of international humanitarian law are proliferating. The Sustainable Development Goals for many are far beyond reach. In light of this reality, there is no miracle cure. There is no single solution. All that counts is the commitment, concrete commitment, day after day. Mr. President, it is clear that we need to move from words to action, more effective and efficient action on reform of the United Nations. The Security Council needs to become more representative, more accountable to all member states. Experience shows that states elected to the Security Council can make a difference by delivering new perspectives, specifically when permanent members are divided. Luxembourg demonstrated this in the past, and we hope to have an opportunity to do so yet again if we are elected to the Council for the 2031 to 2032 mandate. Let us reinforce the role of the General Assembly, particularly when the Security Council is blocked by the veto. It is also evident that the global financial architecture needs to be reformed, for it is not commensurate with the challenges of the present day, specifically the needs of developing countries. Our view in Luxembourg is that development, security, and human rights need to go hand in hand. Luxembourg is committed to the advancement, to the protection and the promotion of human rights and international law. This is also our priority as a member of the Human Rights Council. Luxembourg will also continue to uphold our commitment to official development assistance by dedicating each year 1% of our gross national income to this. We will uphold our commitment to climate financing too, and this is in addition to our official development assistance. We will continue to support the mobilization of private financing, thanks to the expertise of our financial center and specifically our stock exchange. Mr. President, Luxembourg applauds the adoption of the Pact for the Future yesterday morning, and we commend both Germany and Namibia for their facilitation, their successful facilitation of the negotiations. But this moment reminds me of the words of one of my predecessors, Joseph Besch, who was present during the San Francisco conference. In his words, and I quote, "It is not the revision of any given of language of the Charter, but rather the revision of the spirit within us, which will save us. More than words where we found agreement." It is in Yalta or San Francisco, it is a feeling of mutual trust which needs to propel us forward in the years to come. Thank you.
I thank the Prime Minister of the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg. Now invite His Excellency Narendra Modi, Prime Minister of the Republic of India, to address the Assembly.
Excellencies, on behalf of India, the world's largest democracy, and 1.4 billion Indians, greetings to all of you. In the largest election in human history held recently in June, the people of India have given me the opportunity to serve them for the third consecutive term. And today, I bring the voice of this 1/6 of humanity to you. Friends, when we are discussing global future, we must accord the highest priority to a human-centric approach. While prioritizing sustainable development, we must also ensure human welfare, food, and health security. By lifting 250 million people out of poverty in India, we have demonstrated that sustainable development can be successful. We are ready to share this experience of our success with the entire Global South. Friends, success of humanity lies in our collective strength, not in the battlefield. And for global peace and development, reforms in global institutions are essential. Reform is the key to relevance. Permanent membership of the G20 to the African Union at the New Delhi summit was an important step in this direction. While on the one hand, terrorism continues to be a serious threat to global peace and security, on the other hand, areas such as cyber, maritime, and space are emerging as new theaters of conflict. On all these issues, I will stress that global action must match global ambition. Friends, there is a need for balanced regulation at a global level for the safe and responsible use of technology. We need global digital governance, which ensures that national sovereignty and integrity are upheld. Digital public infrastructure should be a bridge, not a barrier. For global good, India is ready to share its digital public infrastructure with the entire world. Friends, for India, one earth, one family, one future is a commitment. This commitment is also reflected in our initiatives such as One Earth, One Health, and One Sun, One World, One Grid. India will continue to work in thought, words, and deeds to protect the rights of all humanity and for global prosperity. Thank you very much.
Thank the Prime Minister of India. Now invite His Excellency Russell Miso Lamini, Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Eswatini, to address the Assembly.
Co-chairs of the Summit of the Future, Mr. Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great honor to address the Summit of the Future on behalf of His Majesty King Mswati III, where the world leaders have gathered to commit to multilateral solutions for a better tomorrow. This summit is an opportunity to take bold actions that will shape the future of our planet and the well-being of generations to come. We commend the co-facilitators of the outcome documents, the Pact for the Future, Global Digital Compact, and Pact on Future Generations for their stellar work. Humanity faces unprecedented global challenges, from poverty and inequality to climate change and technological transformation. No single nation can tackle these challenges alone. The Global Pact for the Future calls for a renewed, inclusive, equitable, and responsive multilateral system. Eswatini, along with other African nations, has long called for reforms to the United Nations to create a more inclusive and representative global governance system. The Eswatini consensus remains a cornerstone for this call. The current structure of the Security Council does not reflect modern geopolitical realities, particularly the underrepresentation of Africa. Expanding the Security Council to include permanent representation for Africa and other marginalized regions is essential for maintaining its legitimacy and addressing global security challenges. This reform is critical to building trust in global institutions. Eswatini believes Taiwan must be included in the international system. Taiwan contributes significantly to global public health, economic development, and technological innovation. Excluding Taiwan limits global cooperation when it is most needed. We call for Taiwan's meaningful participation in international organizations. The COVID-19 pandemic, economic shocks, and the climate crisis have exposed vulnerabilities in the international financial system. Many developing nations face unsustainable debt, limiting their investment in critical areas like healthcare, education, and infrastructure. Eswatini calls for comprehensive debt restructuring and reforms to international financial institutions like the IMF and the World Bank, ensuring that they respond to the needs of developing nations. Fairer access to financing for climate resilience and development is also crucial. Although Eswatini, like other developing countries, contributes little to the climate crisis, it is heavily impacted. While we have made significant improvements in disaster risk governance, urgent climate finance from developed nations is crucial to help mitigate and adapt to these effects. As we work to reduce emissions and meet our commitments, developing nations must continue to prioritize industrialization and energy security to achieve their development goals. Technological advancements create opportunities for development, but have also widened the digital divide. Eswatini recognizes the transformative potential of digital technologies, but urges technologically advanced nations to support affordable technology sharing with developing countries and address risks from emerging technologies like artificial intelligence. We must ensure technology becomes a tool for inclusion, not inequality. This summit presents a unique opportunity to rebuild trust in multilateral system. The crises we face require urgent coordination, international cooperation. In conclusion, the Summit of the Future offers an unparalleled opportunity to reshape the global system. We call reforms through the Eswatini Consensus, equitable representation in decision-making forums, Taiwan's
Thank you, the Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Eswatini. I now invite His Excellency Gaston Alfonso Brown, Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Corporate Governance, and Public-Private Partnerships of Antigua and Barbuda to address the Assembly.
Mr. President, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the multifaceted environmental, economic, health-related, and social emergencies we face are perhaps humanity's greatest existential challenges. The timing of this summit is critical as we confront these unprecedented global threats. Our decisions now impact not just us, but generations to come. Despite decades of UN-led sustainable development conferences, little has been accomplished to safeguard the rights of future generations. Whereas future generations are poised to inherit the greatest technological advancements, with unabated climate change, perhaps they will have no Earth to call home. Our planet is finite, but humans' current ambitions for unending economic profits and territorial expansion seemingly know no bounds. This unsustainable trajectory, marked by escalating climate impacts, environmental destruction, economic greed, wars, and threats of wars, poses an existential threat to all life on Earth. Temperature records are broken almost daily. Hurricanes, floods, and droughts ravage our lands, while mangroves and tropical forests, crucial to our planetary biodiversity and balance, are being obliterated. By making infinite demands on a finite planet, we are transforming our once hospitable home into a hostile environment. This is our moment to change course, to future-proof our